Hello and welcome. My name is Megan Lucky and this is A Lucky Life. Come along with me as I try and get to know myself better and hopefully help you get to know yourself better too. Hello, Margot.
Hello, Megan.
Welcome to A Lucky Life.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. Thank you for coming on.
I am pumped. It's my podcast
Whoa!
debut.
I know. And for those of you that don't know Margot is one of my friends who we know from our mutual bestie, Steph. And Margot is thinking about starting her own podcast.
Yes, I am.
And I was like, you know what? Why don't you come on my podcast so we can talk about this whole idea of finding what's missing in your life and finding that passion outside of work? Because I think a lot of times we get into these career paths and we graduate college and we go down these roads and do a lot of things that we think we should do and think we need to do. And then there's still something kind of missing in our lives.
Yep. This topic is so relevant because it's really hard to find that passion you had as a kid. And I feel like, I don't know if you felt the same recently.
100%.
We've talked about this a little, but
Yeah.
like that joy you get of just like being free and like loving everything you're doing, which I really haven't had since being a kid. And I think it's hard.
It's hard.
And it's important to just go back to those basics, I think. And it's funny because like even in high school, it really started like there's so much pressure from your parents, from your friends, from social media. You got to play a sport. You got to get into a good college. You got to get good grades.
Yeah.
And it was really just this pressure
and
like
getting
I'm supposed to do this,
checking
like,
all the boxes, all the boxes, trying to do what you're supposed to do. And
100%.
And I think for a lot of people, like for me at least, I didn't know what I was passionate about. Like I knew, and deciding a major, and I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast before, like for me choosing a major was like, okay, what will I enjoy and what can like make me money? And so that's kind of how I landed on sports management. I was like, I like sports. I like the camaraderie of it. And then I liked business. I did a business club in high school. So I was like, and I knew that business could make me money.
Yes.
So I was like, this will work. I remember convincing myself, like in my head being like, I will like it. I'll grow to like it.
Yep.
And I'll figure it out. Yep. And like, there were parts about it that I liked. There were, and there still are. Like there was just something always missing for me. And I never explored what I really like, who I really was and what I really wanted. And this whole past year has been a privilege and a gift for me to kind of explore and figure out what it is that was missing for me and what it is that I really want to make an integral part of my life that fills me up. Because I think a lot of times our jobs don't do that for us. They don't light that spark. Agree. And it's okay. Yes. Like, and I think for me a long time, like, especially like this past year, like I was resisting kind of going back into this standard corporate job because I was like, I know now, like after I've done all of this like soul searching, I know that this is not where I want to put all my time and energy. But it's okay that there's balance. You can you can have the corporate job. You can have that as long as it doesn't suck every bit of you dry so that you have no energy left over to do something that does fill you up and to explore and figure out what that is.
100%. And for those who know Megan, she's very multifaceted. She's great at a lot of things.
Oh, thanks, Margot.
So I think it's important that you have those passions outside of work and
honor other sides of yourself. And again, like that is been another part of this year for me, like honoring the sides of me that I'm not sure that people love. And I think I'm doing, do you know Gabby Bernstein?
I do. I love her.
Oh my God. Have you read?
I follow her. I need to read her book. She's just so inspirational.
She's good.
Great.
I love her. And honestly, like, so I just read the book. This is a little unrelated. Have you heard of the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill? It's like an old classic, really kind of on like old school manifesting and like mindset.
Yes.
And he talks about having these imaginative I forget what he calls them. It's an invisible council.
Okay.
And it's like all these people that inspire you and like having a meeting about your future and like your goals in your head with all these like people that are like on this invisible round table. And I was like, okay, who would be at my round table? Like, who inspires me? And I was like,
I love that.
Right? And I was like, okay, like thinking of like people in different kind of categories.
Who
and
would
like,
be? Do you know?
Gabby Bernstein, I was like, she is like one of the key people that like I want to model kind of like my life after. Like, I love her books. I love the way she communicates. I think it really resonates with me. I love the concepts she talks about. But it's not like, again, like because you said, like I am multifaceted and I want to honor all the sides of me that like I haven't always in the past.
Totally.
Her, I like Alex Cooper. I like the way she podcasts. So that's kind of like the podcasting element.
Yes.
Who else? I like Reese Witherspoon. Again, I just think
Love
she's like a
her
badass,
too.
like amazing at what she does, but also like a good friend, a good mom.
She's got that whole
Yeah.
What's her son? Well, she's also
She
very
reads a lot. She's
got
multifaceted.
that book club, but
Yeah.
then she
Yes,
I think
exactly, the book club.
She's like a producer.
Yes,
She owns
she had-
Hello Sunshine. That's what it's
Yeah, she has a lot of like cool qualities that I want to emulate. I made categories for myself. Oh, Jay Shetty. Like I love Jay
called.
Shetty.
Oh yeah, you got like a whole squad with
a whole squad.
different personalities and
Mel
strengths.
Robbins. Yeah.
Love.
And
That's great. I
yeah,
love
who
that
do you think would
idea.
be like on your invisible council?
That's so funny. Well, Reese Witherspoon would definitely be on mine as
right?
well.
She's so good.
I love Claudia Oshry from
is
The
that?
Toast. Have you ever heard? Well, listen to this podcast.
I should. I'm so bad.
So the reason I would have her,
I've seen it before.
So she's Girl with No Job.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And she's someone that's just authentically herself.
She's funny.
And does not give an F what anyone says.
Yeah.
She just does her.
You can curse on this,
and
by the way.
she's hilarious. Yeah, I might
If you
start
want to.
swearing.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
see.
Let
We'll
it
get
flow.
into
Let
this.
it
I might
flow.
let it flow. Like a Tony Robbins or
Yes,
someone.
Tony
or
Robbins,
do you know
again.
Ed Milet by chance?
No.
So
I don't, or maybe again, like
he is a business guy. He's had a tough life.
yeah.
He lost both of his parents
Wow.
really young, but
Yeah.
he just kind of like pushed through.
Yeah.
Really inspiring. He has his own podcast and it's just very motivating. Basically, similar to what we're talking about now,
Right.
but also finding those passions, but also just pushing through. Like,
Yeah.
tough shit happens in life, and
Yeah.
like it's really how you not
Yeah.
how you're dealt, but how you deal with that.
Right.
And so I find people like that so inspiring.
Me too.
That have dealt with shit too.
Well, and I think this is a good tool because what I really want to focus on this podcast is how do we figure out how to give ourselves that passion back? How do we light the fire
Yes.
that we feel like we're missing in our lives? And so for me, I had this gift of a year to like go explore that, but like I honestly feel that it's even more important for me to be doing it now because it's so unrelatable to like not work. It's not
Right.
and it's not possible for so many people to like just not have a job and be able to like spend a whole year exploring, you know? So how do we do it while we have our jobs? How do we find, maybe we don't know, like how do you find what's missing if you don't even know what you're passionate about? Like that, and then how do we combat the excuses and like the limiting beliefs and the fears of I don't have time, like my job sucks everything out of me and I don't have any energy left over to like look for this. You know what I mean?
So it's a great topic of conversation. And
Yeah, and, like-
honestly, like for me,
Yeah.
it took me kind of being in a rut.
Yeah, I think it does
for a lot
for
of
me
my
too.
20s to then be like, I'm sick of finding validation through boys,
Yeah.
through social media likes,
Yeah.
through drinking. Like I felt like
Even
it
just
was
like the
very-
fleeting job stuff, like a
Fleeting
little
job
promotion, a
stuff.
little, you know, like
Yes.
little throw me a bone.
And I think a lot of
You got to find it within.
people will relate to that. But when you're really only focused on external validations as well as, and then you're not loving your job and you're missing like almost, I look at it like that childhood fire that's
Yes.
lit where
Yes.
nothing, where you're confident and
Yeah.
like
What
no
were-
external pressures.
Yeah. So going back to that, like, or focusing in on that, like what got you excited as a kid? Because I think
Yeah.
that's like a lot of self-help books that I read talk about like finding your passions by going back to like what sparked your fire as a kid, because that was hard for me because I couldn't
Yes.
think. For me, I was like, when I was a kid, I didn't really know because I tried everything. I tried all the sports, I tried all the clubs, I tried all the activities, and like I didn't like feel like there was one thing I was super good at. However, when I really like when I think about writing and when I think about like eventually how I want to write a book and how that's always kind of been there. And again, like,
great at that.
Thank you. And I want to. And I just, again, I still have these limiting beliefs and fears. So that's kind of where I'm like, now I got to overcome that. But it is true that like, that is what now fuels me. The things that excited me as a kid now fuel me. And that has been something I've really had to like consciously rediscover.
Yes. And I completely agree. I'm in the same boat as you. I feel like I just switched jobs.
Yes.
So I've been in sales for those who don't know me. I actually, Megan knows. So I wanted to initially be a broadcast journalist. That sparked my fire. That was like the only time really corporately where I was like,
this is
wow,
so,
shit, this is fun.
So,
like,
and you're
I am
so
fired
good at it.
up. Thank you. But it was one of those things. It's like, I can't live in New York, can't make the money I want to make with this career path.
Yeah.
So I actually remember senior year, it was a really challenging time in my life because halfway through I was like, fuck, I can't go into journalism. Like I feel like everything I worked towards is a waste. And so I went into sales and it was really tough. And that's what we were saying about just the rut. It's very easy to just kind of go with the motions. And I felt like after a couple years, I'm like, yes, obviously I love my friends. I love going out. I have a great social life. But I'm going to my 9 to 5. I'm going home. I go to the gym. But I'm like, I miss that fire that lights up. And I don't want it to be from a boy. That should complement it, but it shouldn't all be that. And I was really relying on that for my happiness.
I had a phase of that as well, for sure. Yeah.
It happens.
And I honestly, it's still even, yes, when you're single, I feel like it's heightened. Even in a relationship, like you pour, especially as women, we pour a lot of ourselves into our relationships. Yeah. And it's kind of natural for us to do that.
Yes.
But it's so important to kind of find yourself and be taking care of yourself utmost priority.
100%.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of go full circle in it. So a couple years of a rut and then had a tough couple of years. I lost my dad to cancer, and I think that was really when I was like, oh my God, I lost like my biggest
And I don't want to say rock bottom, but like
it was
that,
rock
like a
bottom
moment.
in the sense where, so a couple years after that, really was just finding validation from guys. Then it was rock bottom when I was not finding the right people.
Yeah, and it was,
I was bringing this
filling that
energy.
void.
It was filling a void. Yeah. But it was a wake up call in the sense that I need to find my own happiness. Yeah. So this is the
and that's so hard.
We talked about it. And listen, I love it's hard. Yeah. With sales, I'm like, listen, I like it some days, but I'm not like, hell yeah, this is not my work. I'm 100%. Yeah. So to go just for advice for everyone, and you've done a great job the past year, but anyone that still has to go to their 9 to 5 and like, let's be realistic. We got to pay the bills.
Yes, we got to pay the bills. We also we have wants in our lives that a lot of
you got to pay for them. Travel, at friends, you got to, that's just the realistic part.
And you might even for me, yes, money is a main motivating factor for being in the corporate world, but also I need the structure. As someone who wants to be in creative fields and helping fields, I need structure because I can't, I have a hard time giving it to myself. I feel like this job gives me that structure. So I'm actually more motivated outside of working hours to put my energy into a routine and put my energy into the things that I really want to. Yes. And I put too much pressure on myself to do that when I wasn't working, when I wasn't in a corporate job. I put too much pressure to have myself figured everything out all at once and be able to make money as soon as I snap my fingers the way that I really wanted to. And it just doesn't work like that. And sometimes we need balance with having another job and being able to balance that with a hobby or a passion or an activity outside.
100%. And that's really where I think people find their true happiness. Yeah. And it's so, I feel like it's so common. My mom would always say, she's like, you can't rely solely on a man for your happiness. If you don't find it within yourself, we should talk about it. It's so important. And even if, you can still have a significant other while you're working on yourself.
It's hard, but it is possible. It's possible. Yeah. And that's something that I feel like a lot of people quit their relationships before they realize. And then I see all these memes or these not memes, but videos and content creators talking about how you can do this with your partner.
Yes.
Why does, when people break up, why do then they start getting the body they've always wanted? Why do then they start achieving all their wildest dreams that they couldn't do in the relationships? Like, you can start doing those things. It takes more effort, conscious effort, but you build so much more together if you're able to do that together. But hey, if that's okay, if you need to break up, maybe they're not your person anyway. And then if you're able to give yourself that, as long as you're doing it, then you're going to be great for the next relationship. But it's possible to do it in a relationship.
100%. And Megan, I think you're a great example of someone who is working on yourself. You've got a whole year where you're really doing the soul searching. You're adding in all your hobbies. You're making, she's getting shit done, which is really admirable.
Margot.
But she's doing this in a long-term relationship. And I think, I mean, it depends case to case.
Yeah,
some
it
people
is.
grow together even when you change. Some people
go
don't.
apart.
And that's okay. And I want to mention, like, Megan knows I'm a little bit of a serial dater, everyone.
Hey,
we all.
That's relatable. It's relatable.
It's fine.
Don't be hard on yourself for that.
And I think it's good.
She's a romantic, everyone.
I'm a romantic. I'm fun.
She is.
But I think it's good to date also not a ton of people.
But also,
but
yes.
to kind of figure out your person, but then, like, I think
learn
for
what
the
you want,
first
learn what
time,
you don't want.
and good advice for people, like, if you're going through something similar where you, like, just have lost that spark we're talking about, and let's say you're going through a breakup and you kind of just feel like, shit, like, what do I do now? It almost forced me in a weird way. I'm like, all right, I only have myself right now. And it's scary. But when you do the little things, like, again,
leaning into that discomfort.
Like, I was like, I love tennis, for instance. I was like, you know what? I played tennis growing up. It's so freaking random. But I was like, I'm really going to invest in my tennis. Like, we were laughing today with other friends. I'm like, my tennis coach sent me, like, a video of me, like, serving. And for whatever reason, it just sparks so much joy. But, like, little stuff like that, it's always the little things that really makes such a difference. I was like, I forgot, and you have to kind of happy it makes me.
Put yourself out there to, like, find that.
And there's so much other stuff. Like, Megan obviously has a million things. She's doing her podcast. She's a yoga instructor, content creator, writer. There's a lot of different options too, and I would recommend to people.
So that's
writing a list of
things that bring you spark joy.
What am I good at? And what am I passionate about? And see where the two align. Like, what can I do here? And you don't have to make money doing it. It's just solely for the purpose of that spark. And maybe it turns into something. You never know. Like, I'm all about the side hustles. Like, people make it big and that have had 9-to-5s and then do their podcast or write a book
on the side. It's a side
doable. I would ask, because you have really done the soul searching and I feel like you're really attacking it by storm, which is amazing. Like,
so
what advice? Thanks. Just starting.
But no,
we're in
you're
our
doing
hobby era, everyone. Highly recommend. It's the year of hobbies.
And you go first.
What was I going to ask you? Oh, what, like, fully gives you that confidence to just not be afraid to fail? I think that's the biggest hurdle people have. I've had it. I'm like,
and here's my most honest answer.
I don't know if I can start a podcast. I'm scared. That fear is really tough. How do you get over
really
that?
tough. You don't.
You just do it anyways.
I hate that answer.
No,
but
you're
like,
right.
you don't really get over it. You accept it.
Yes.
You accept that that's a possibility, and you accept that success is also a possibility. But you really have to, like, be okay with that. And I think that took me a long time, and that also was stopping me even from, like, making changes. Like, I felt like I had failed. I had started this podcast and I had failed because I was comparing myself. I was looking at the numbers. I was like, just looking back at the videos and at the podcast and being like, I don't even want to watch it. Like, I feel like I don't like all of these things. Like, so once I kind of was able to come to terms with that, like, okay, so what? So what if I fail? Like, at least I fucking tried. So many people out there will never start. Will never, because not only is it a fear of failure, it's a fear of judgment more than anything, especially for this industry. Like, fear of failure in your own home is one thing, but fear of failing in front of the whole world is another thing. And again, I say whole world, but like,
no, it's
still like I'm putting myself out there for anybody to see if they wanted to.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I feel like sometimes you just gotta fall on your fucking face.
Yes.
Like, it's hard and it's easier said than done.
But I think it helps me. It helped me to fall on my fucking face.
Yeah.
It helps me.
And
I know
you're trying different
things
out.
It's shitty in the moment, but like, I promise you, I am so much better off because I've done this. And I'm so much better off because I failed.
Yes.
And because I'm now adjusting, because you have to be able to learn from failure. Even though objectively, like, I'm not going to make a blanket statement saying this podcast was a failure. Like, but to me, if I was feeling any which way about it and I kept feeling that way and nothing was changing week to week, nothing's ever going to change. I'm never going to feel any better about it. So I need to do something differently so that I can get more out of it and enjoy it. So, okay, what do I want to do? How am I going to feel like I'm making a difference and I'm putting a good product out there? Because I don't feel like that right now. So even if the numbers don't change, even if I never have a single person tell me like, I love your podcast, I will feel better about it just because I'm doing more and feeling like, okay, I'm proud of the product that I'm putting
100%.
out. Yeah.
And you're proud of the content.
Yeah, now a little bit.
Yeah, it's
so
a work in progress,
I'm getting there.
though, but I think that's important to mention because like this hobby era and like finding that spark is hard. It's not easy sometimes because you're afraid and you gotta just not care where it goes. But I think having a job though, like a 9 to 5 or whatever, then this is just on the side. So then it's not too scary where it's like I'm only going to be doing podcasting and I'm solely relying on
I'm only going to do life coaching and I need to make money about it right away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like,
Like,
just be okay with that.
Don't quit your day job unless you are. And look, you can. I really think, for me at least, as somebody who needs that structure kind of, I really appreciated having both. Overall, I think the main point for us and just for a lot of people is like, how do you give yourself the life of your dreams? Because I think we rely on it, like you were saying, in all these external validation sources, whether it's your job, whether it's social media or men. Relying on that external validation is not only is it not reliable, but it's not truly, it's fake. It's fake dopamine. It's fake. And if you can't give that to yourself and you're always expecting like a man, let's say, to like fill that gap, fill that void, you are setting yourself up for a cycle, just a cycle and ongoing. And you're giving away your power.
Yes.
And you need to take back your power. And like I even still, like, even in a healthy relationship, I still do that sometimes. And I'm like wanting him to make me happy at the end of the day. I'm like, why am I giving away so much of my power to like somebody else?
It's so hard though. And like, it's hard to not put validation into a relationship. It's really hard. I think, you should commend yourself for getting through, your soul searching. You're finding your inner happiness. But I have really learned, like, it's hard to fully rely on a significant other, society. I've done it. I mean, like,
everybody has. I like, honestly think everybody has.
But that's the thing, and I think the biggest piece of advice to everyone is, hey, like, having a significant other, if you're into that, is great. Yeah, it's awesome. It's amazing. But if you're not,
let it serve you though. But if not take away.
If there's no other source of happiness internally, if you don't truly love yourself, I know it's so cheesy, but I want to say that it's true. And like, it's sort of sometimes, like for me, luckily kind of am by myself now. I'm finally like finding that inner happiness.
Good.
But sometimes you need that. You need to figure out like, okay, who am I without a relationship if it's not the right person? If it is, you can still find yourself. But
you so still need to, like, even if you're in a relationship, you still need to say, who am I without the relationship?
Totally.
You still need to be able to have that.
Also, I want to bring up, because I know you read this book, because I think you wrote a review. I just read Settle for More by Megyn Kelly.
Wait, yes.
Yeah. And so the whole premise.
I liked that book a lot.
I loved it. It's just the premise tying in and a little bit on a tangent, but it's so important. She really never settled. Like so Megyn Kelly,
and she's a badass. Like,
she's a badass.
Especially being a woman in all the fields that she is in is hard.
She's gotten canceled. So anyway, she switched her career in her 30s, right? Yeah. She was a big time lawyer. Just decided she wanted to go into broadcast journalism. She took a chance, did it.
Yep.
She married someone that wasn't the right fit, got divorced, like found a new husband. The whole
broke all the societal rules
the whole
to
point
get to where she wanted to be, because she never settled.
Yeah, a couple things is never be afraid to fall on your ass, even when it's hard.
Yeah.
Never be afraid.
Even when you're like, even with love, I think a lot of.
Yeah, don't settle. Like if you truly, I feel like everyone kind of knows.
You have to fully.
I've felt it, and I've always had this fear of being alone in this pressure from
me
society.
too.
Like, oh, we got to have kids. We got to be married. Luckily, like New York, it is getting better where a lot of people are single in their late 20s.
Yes.
It's like, okay.
But still, you look on your Instagram and you see all these people getting married, having babies, and you're like, oh, like, I'm not even close to that, you know? And you're like, okay, well, it kind of lights this subconscious thing of like, okay, how can I, like, your subconscious starts to like look for ways to like make that happen sooner.
Yes.
Even if you're not ready for it, even if it's not right for you, because you start comparing yourself and you start feeling like this pressure.
Yes.
What else I have to say about that, like comparing yourself and feeling like, oh, like, I shouldn't want more, and like ignoring that feeling that something's missing because you're like, I should be grateful because a lot of other people don't have all these amazing things that I have.
Yes.
And not feeling like that either. Like, it's okay. It's okay to acknowledge that something isn't right in your life, because then you can never do anything about it. You can't, it's never going to go away. It's never going to go away unless you actually change something. And 100%. It's okay. It's okay to fall on your ass. Like you said, it's okay to break those societal norms and rules so that you can give yourself the life you want. Because guess what? A man isn't going to give you the life you want.
No.
Social media is not going to give you the life you want. Your job probably won't give you the life you want unless it's like we were talking about, the very rare diamond gem of having your job be your passion,
which is hard. I mean,
which is hard.
I feel like
it's possible though,
rare.
and it's something you can't ever get unless you start with something like what we're talking about now, with it being a hobby, or with it, you know, it's really like very unrealistic to just be able to snap your fingers and be in your dream job. You can't do that. You just can't.
Off of that too, and like back to like finding inner peace, and I'm gonna just use the word happiness, but contentment.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah,
you bring. I think you really attract the energy you give off. So if you're giving
you
off insecure energy, which I've done a lot in my 20s because I didn't know myself.
It's so normal.
It's so normal. My voice. It's okay.
Yes,
it happens.
But
when you
being
get
okay
off,
with that,
it's okay if you attract, and like it's funny now, like being self-aware. Like, all right, I might not have been attracting the energy I deserve and want in my life because I wasn't doing the soul searching, and I think it's
exactly
so. That.
And that's, people are so scared of spending quality alone time. They're so
people
scared
hate
of
it.
People hate it.
Do you go to the movies? I go
to the movies by myself.
Yeah, it's so fun. Dinner?
Yes.
Do you do dinner
Yes,
too?
I do.
All right, I got to get over the dinner thing.
It's been a little while. But you know what I really don't like doing by myself? Going to a bar. I don't like going to a bar by myself.
Afraid. People, I give you props if you go to a bar by yourself.
I do
that's
too.
Amazing.
It's really hard. I can't do it. I can't. But yes, I like to go to dinner by myself. It's been a minute though. I need to get back on that horse. Yeah, sometimes.
I love that.
Or a journal. Or headphones, but like,
that's lovely.
Even just like, it's hard. It's a challenge to sit by yourself.
It's important.
But even just meditating, you know, like spending any quality time alone with your thoughts, people run so far from that.
Yes,
and that's where the real like change and transformation is. Like you really being able to spend that alone time and figuring out and like analyzing, like I'm doing in Gabby's book, which I've mentioned a million times. It was a meditation that helps you kind of really uncover what's blocking you from what you really want, and where your fears really come deep down. And like, I have the fear of that, who I am as a whole and who I am in my life is not good enough to be loved the way that I want to be loved, and the way that I know.
But that's so. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah,
I feel like that's
and then I'm just not enough. Exactly,
and that's hard to get.
Yeah.
Are you? So I would ask.
Yeah.
Like, would you say, since soul searching and like figuring truly out who you are as Megan without any external factors, like, have you kind of are you working past that fear? I know it's always probably fear deep down.
That's a good question. I have made so much progress, and like I'm like, ugh, I'm not where I want to be. I still have these insecurities. I'm still having these like limiting beliefs and blocks that are kind of still stopping me from getting to the next phase. But I'm so much more aware. And I'm so much more able to have empathy for that kid in me. And I was doing this meditation, and I had always like known like that I've had that feeling, and I kind of like, I was like, oh, like I'm sure it came from like XYZ like big events in my life. But then I did this meditation, and like I had all these like little memories, like these little flashes of like moments like at camp when I was a kid and at the lunch tables and like,
wow.
And I was like, oh my God, like I had no idea how deep it was. And I like, even in the playground, like I had these little moments of like feeling like not enough, feeling not accepted, feeling like I had to be someone else to be part of the community, to be part of the group. And so I was like, oh my God. So it wasn't just from like being cheated on. It wasn't just from like having a hard relationship with my mom and like all these things that I like just assumed, oh, it's just these things.
Yeah.
Like it's so much deeper than that. So it's not going to just go away. And like I have to be okay with revisiting it. You know what I mean? Like you have to feel it. And that's something that's also so people don't want to feel.
People don't like to feel
any kind of like that real deep pain. And I think my therapist was like, you have to like accept that possibility. I'm like, ugh.
Well,
the possibility.
It's amazing you're even talking and like recognizing it. And I think self-awareness is so underrated. Like when you fully are vulnerable and feel, it's so fucking hard. It's like so to hard. Feel, I mean, like,
but it's so worth it. It's so worth it.
I was just talking to my therapist. Like I just started grieving my dad.
Yes. Oh my God. And I think that is also so normal too.
I lost him 3 years ago. Well, so
it feels like just yesterday.
It's so crazy now because, and grieving is a whole separate thing that I've first time I'm dealing with. I mean,
you got to come back on the podcast. We have like so much more to talk about.
But to wrap it into like our whole topic is, you know, it's okay. Life happens. Give yourself grace. But there's to feel. I always was like, I'm so not embarrassed, but like this is such like a taboo topic. Like,
and it's like
cancer, death. Like I don't want to bring it up to people.
And that's you feeling like a burden. But
and so that goes back though, just to like society and like everything needs to be perfect. I need to like I need to be doing this. I need to be okay. I need to be happy. It's okay to have pain. It's okay to talk about it. And I think
it's okay to especially like it's okay to lean on the people in your life to help you get through that, because sometimes we can't get through it alone and we put that kind of pressure on ourselves to do it, and then we don't feel the pain and then we suppress it. And it just never really goes away.
And I don't know if you felt this way with what you were talking about and like those memories and that pain. Like for me, until I really addressed that pain, I wasn't working on myself. So that was really where the external validation
was filling the void.
20s. And let's be honest, like your 20s are really hard and no one prepares you for living on your own after college.
And you know what else?
So hard.
Your 20s are really hard, they are so glamorized. They're so romanticized. And everyone's like, oh, your 20s are the best years of your life. And I'm like, I don't know why, but I've always felt like my 30s are going to be the best years of my life.
The
30s are our years.
Yeah. 20s are hard.
You have to figure yourself out. You're so young. It
reminds me, and I think it's also because like, all right, in school, high school, we're working towards getting into college. We know what's coming next. College, we're working.
We're given the next steps laid out for us.
Geez, like the next phase of life, like I guess getting married and getting kids is like the next after.
But like, how are you? But you need to find yourself before you do that.
It's
like
so hard.
It's so hard.
I would also mention, like for instance, like Megan's a yoga instructor. Like,
you
love that. I love fitness. I love tennis. Like, just like those little things, just remind you of you. And I think also,
and you lose yourself when you're like pleasing men and you want to like be the right girl for them. And
we
like
all do it though.
And I think
it's important to just be like, give yourself grace. You're hard on yourself. I'm hard on myself. But everyone's a work in progress. I think it's important to just remember, like, it's okay. Like, not everyone's kind of going through it in their 20s.
Yes,
like,
and also nobody really talks about it, but people are all going through it, like, and in their own way.
Totally. Not to be super deep, but I truly do believe every person in the universe is put here for a reason.
100%.
Everyone has a purpose.
I 100% agree with you.
And it's deep, but like, this is why we're here, to live meaningful, exciting,
like life that you want. You're not here to please other people. You're not here to like make someone proud. You're here to make yourself proud, and you're here to do what you want to do. And that's another thing is like, I catch myself saying it takes work, because that always like rubbed me the wrong way. Like, well, then I don't want it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want something that feels hard. And I feel like that's another thing Gabby talks a lot about in her book. It won't feel like work. It won't be like, yes, at first there is a push, there is discomfort that you need to lean into, but it will be, if it's the right thing for you, then it will feel easy. It will feel effortless. And I'm already starting to feel that way. Like, I swear to God, it has been so long. I have never felt like this before, but I'm starting to finally be like, oh, wow, it actually is effortless. Once you start getting in the habit of things that you actually like love doing. And again, it takes exploring, it takes unpacking, but it's worth it. And then it is easy and it is effortless, and you're following your passions. And I think you're right, like everyone has a purpose, and that's kind of what my purpose is, to help other people find their purpose. That's genuinely what I believe. And so I want to do that through all of these methods, like life coaching and podcasting and book, blah blah blah, you know.
No, but it brings joy. And it brings joy. If it brings you joy, that's all at the end of the day that matters. You are happy with where you're taking
and
your
we
life,
need
you're in control of. What you're in control of your life is so important, and how you spend that time.
And we need people to do their purposes. We need people to not please others, because then you're going to be wasting your beautiful potential by being stuck in a life that you don't really want.
And you're not going to be happy.
What if you're like an inventor that's like keeping us from this beautiful invention? Like, explore yourself, find your purpose, find your passion. I love that. The spiritual side of me believes that we all have like these soul contracts. There's things, of course, that change like our lives, and there's things that are completely affected by our environment, by our DNA, and like all this shit. But I believe there's that intuition is unchanging. And so it will always pull you or keep you away from certain things, and that won't change. So getting to know that part of yourself, that's the biggest thing. Listening to those gut feelings, even if it's saying, oh, I don't like this person, or oh, I like doing this. Like that's something I feel drawn to. Follow those feelings, and you will find what it is that's missing in your life, and you will find how to fill that void. Not the void. How to genuinely feel self-fulfillment.
That's amazing. I'm like fired up. I heard this phrase. Actually, I think Stephanie, our mutual friend, said she read somewhere that when you're in your 20s, you go through a second puberty.
Yes,
almost.
100%.
And it's so true.
Yeah.
And I think it's the last point, like soul searching, figuring out who you are. It will come. And everyone,
you go at your own journey. You go at your own pace.
But
don't pressure.
I think giving grace, and I'm working on this, and you've talked about working on this. Like, we're hard on ourselves. We want to be amazing. We want to be
here
living
when we're
life.
Here. Yeah.
But sometimes you got to just go with the punches and not beat yourself up.
Yeah. And maybe you're not ready to like really dive into the work just yet. And that's okay.
Yep.
Again, that's, I think, part of the soul contract too. Like, trust your journey. Trust that you will figure it out and find your path when you're meant to.
And have fun in the way.
And enjoy it.
Date the wrong people.
Date the wrong people.
I mean, yeah.
Please the men. Like, be the... Don't say... No, I'm taking that out. Don't please the men. No. Oh. But no,
Very
date
good.
the wrong people. Find yourself. Lose yourself.
Fail.
Find
Do
yourself
something
again.
You're bad at. Like, maybe you're bad at something. Like, everything takes practice too. Like, do something, even if it's just fun.
Let your journey be the way it's meant to be.
I love that.
Me too.
This was so fun.
Thank you for coming on. I know.
You.
And hopefully you'll have to let us know if you start your own.
I think I should, now that we've had this whole conversation.
I know. I wanted you to see what it was like. And I just thought this was such a relatable topic, especially for what I talk about on this podcast.
Yes.
And thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here and giving us Margot.
Thank you, Megan. She's amazing.
You're amazing.
And this was a very exciting,
relevant
I
love
topic.
you, and I'm so grateful for you.
Love you.
Tune in 2 weeks, February 6th. I will be talking about how to be your own Valentine.
Cute. Galentine's this year. If anyone wants to be my Galentine.
Yes.
Or Valentine. If you're free,
hit Margot. Her DMs are open.
I love roses. And hydrangeas. I don't discriminate flowers. So.
You hear that, boys? Actually, no, you're in yours.
I'm in my... Well, if you're fabulous, I mean, maybe.
She's not going to close the door. All right, fair enough. And on that, thank you for listening, and I will see you next time. Thanks for coming, Margot.
Megan.
Bye. Hello and welcome. My name is Megan Lucky, and this is A Lucky Life. Come along with me as I try and get to know myself better and hopefully help you get to know yourself better too.